Is it okay to talk about the rapture? I mean, I swear, if you're in any type of Christian circles, if you start talking about the rapture, even though people believe that, the rapture may, is inevitable, etc., nobody wants to talk about it. I mean, to me, it's a good thing. It's exciting, all right, and it's relevant. Why? Well, the world is a problem right now. Everything's around Israel. Hello? I mean, always started, always, always promise himself never to say that, but hello, right? I mean, how appropriate. We have a world all obsessed with the Middle East. It's been that way for a long time, right? But check it out, right? Israel became a nation in 1948. And many years before that, people would study the Bible and they would throw their hands up in the air and walk away. I mean, there's a whole branch of Christianity, Calvinism, that gave up on the end times a long time ago and replaced the church with Israel. Replaced Israel with the church. And Calvin, he did read Revelation, but he had no commentary on it. He's famous for his commentaries. But the Bible says, if you read Daniel, at the end days, the wise will understand what Gabriel was talking to Daniel about. This is in Daniel chapter 12. And Gabriel's going off, talking about Michael and all these nations moving around, and really about this Antichrist who will rise up. And Antichrist just means like another Christ, a fake Christ. We're all familiar with fake news nowadays, right? And it's funny, the people who are, it's like crying wolf. You hear a lot of media priding themselves on being the truth, and not being a fake news. But they are fake news if they are beholden to some one world government agenda and hell-bent on manipulating people to that end, and telling half-truths. The best lies have a lot of truth in it, but they steer you they steer you away from the ultimate truth. And that's how it's very deceptive. And Satan is a deceiver. And this is his greatest trick, all right? I mean, if you were to sail across the ocean, or, and your coordinates are off just a little, you'd end up not where you want to be, all right? You're on the ocean, you're moving in that direction, but you're not going to where you should be. But the beautiful thing is God tells us what's going to happen ahead of time. So the scriptures, the prophetic scriptures in Daniel, I'm pounding the desk, in Daniel, in the book of Revelation, in Ezekiel, in Zechariah, in the Psalms, I guess they say 25% of all scriptures are prophetic when they were written. Boy, that's a statement. It's like 66 books in the Bible. And there's fulfilled prophecy, and we can trust. See, it's all about trust. I mean, anybody can say anything, right? But if you can verify the Bible was existing before Christ came, and it had all these prophecies about Christ, where he would be from. The Bible says he would be from 3 different places, basically. He'd come from out of Egypt, and he'd be from Galilee, right, and be from Bethlehem. And Jesus did all 3 of those things. And he was just a toddler by the time he had done it. By the time he was a toddler, of course, his birth, he was an infant. So after a while, I mean, for me, I didn't start there. But that's nice to know. right? Um, to me, just reading the Bible spoke life to me. The Bible says these words are life, all right? So if you read the Bible and it's something that is powerful and gives you life, all right? And you were born again. We're dead, born dead spiritually, all right? So we need a new life. I was down the Cape over the weekend, and I haven't been down there in a while. I used to get down there all the time. And I was driving along. This one church had a sign, beautiful church, big, beautiful, kind of modernish looking, and said, "Live life fully." I thought that was great. What a great sign. We have a spiritual side that needs to be nourished. We're not living fully. All right, we're running around basically trying to find that life, but we're looking in different places, and we surround ourselves with people who are intentions, but they disappoint us after a while. Then we're in this echo chamber of conformity with an anti-God world. Now the Bible is exciting. Paul gave prophecies to new Christians to read about. You read the book of Thessalonians. There's two books. These are letters. We call them books, but they're short letters, epistles. And Paul wrote to Thessalonians as he had passed through Thessalonica, and he was chased out of there, I believe, went through to Berea and came down towards Athens and went to Corinth. I mean, you want to hear about some crazy churches. There was some crazy stuff going on in Corinth. Came back to, and I think he came back to Athens. I'm not 100%. I did study. That's a great study, by the way. If you want an adventurous story, you can read the book of Acts. Now that's a book. That's 26 chapters, and it's written by Luke, who's a doctor, and I think it's Sir William Ramsay who set out to disprove the Bible, archaeologist, and he said that Luke was one of the finest historians. And so there's benchmarks. There's a coin that they find that time-stamped Paul's stay in Corinth with the emperor at that time, around 51 AD. I mean, there's a lot of little things like that. And then, like I said, we know the Bible was written before Jesus was born, so we can trust the Bible. It's all about trusting. See, the Bible comes to us pre-slandered. We don't even want to pick it up. We think it's bad news anyway. See, that's another form of pre-slandered. And no, but it's good news. God meets you where you are. God meets you at your need. He knows you have this inability to save yourself. So what does he do? He did it for you. He went to the cross and died. His blood was spilled. And through the shedding of blood, there's forgiveness of sin. And then so he is the way. And then he rose from the dead, okay? And then he appeared to people to prove it, all right? And so, and then he told us about what's going to happen, from beginning to end. It says that in Psalm, that Jesus is telling us what's going to happen from the end. So the second coming is a big part of Christian thinking and theology. And like 99% of Christians believe in the second coming, if not all. I mean, it's such a, if you don't, you're almost, if you don't believe in the second coming of Christ, I would say you're a heretic, and you're probably not a Christian. So Jesus is coming back. There's differences as to whether or not when he'll come back. And if you read Thessalonians, the letter that Paul sent to a bunch of new Christians, and he's talking about prophecies throughout those two letters. At the end of each chapter, he reminds them about the second coming. Okay, and there's, unfortunately, in the Bible, the translators played games with 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 3, and they substituted, they used to say departure in all the Bibles up until 1575, when the Catholics came in and were mad at the Protestant Reformation and took a shot at the Protestants when they substituted, they took the word apostasia, which means the departing or the departure. Hello, rapture right there. They took that out, even though that's what it, in all the other books, our Bible's up to that point, that's what it actually was translated at, and it's a singular event, and it can mean a physical removal. Okay, so, and they put in place the word revolt as a shot at the Protestants. What did the Protestants do? They returned serve in 1611, and they came up with falling away, and almost all the Bibles say falling away now. So Christians are walking around thinking that Jesus can't come back until there's a falling away. But no, the Bible says he's coming back. Because if you read that verse, it talks about Satan will not be revealed as the Antichrist, if you will, until the departure, meaning the rapture has taken place. But the new translations say falling away, so everyone's waiting for this falling away to occur. Well, that's not what's going to happen. There's going to be a rapture. And, you ask any pastor, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. But it is a theological area of study in the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Grant Jeffries, there's a whole list of them. If you look up Andy Woods, he's spoken about it many different times. He's written about it. He's got great videos on his website. Grant Jeffries believed in this. I've seen him speak on this. He's passed away, but Andy's still around, and it's one of Andy's favorite subjects to talk about this. So there is hope. See, Jesus is coming back. When we believe he can come back at any moment, the Bible says we purify ourselves in a sense that we are thinking God is sovereign, right? We're walking by faith, and there's just a sense that you know God's in charge. So, that's why you're basically trusting God at that point and seeing he's real and he's in charge of everything. And as a result of that, you're worshiping him. So that's why it says in 1 John that we are purifying ourselves when we think that Jesus come back at any moment. And he has jurisdiction over all the world. He can do it when he wants to do it. And so this is an important thing that happened in the church. Unfortunate. But if you mess with the Bible says that you play around with the words, and both sides are guilty here. God help you. You're going to hell, right? And you're leading all these people astray. So those translators are in a lot of trouble. All right? I'll be interested to see what happens to them. All right, that's my word for the day. Hope you receive it well. Have a blessed day.